It has become something of a tradition for me to make an Etsy pros and cons video at the start of every year. So here we are again with a new Is Etsy Worth It video for 2023. Just as a warning, if you're new here, these are literally just my opinions. And if you watch my previous pros and cons videos, you'll see that what I consider to be a pro or a con has been changing drastically, just as Etsy has. So let's dive straight into pro number one. So the first one has got to be organic footfall or organic traffic or whatever you want to call it. It's organic and Etsy has it. It's not the same as it was, but then that can apply to pretty much anything or anywhere on the internet these days. So we'll give them that. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing because getting that metaphorical ball rolling is what you want to do anyway, regardless of where you're selling, Etsy, website, whatever. And if something can give you some extra organic traffic and sales on top of your work, then that's got to be a good thing. And that is why, for me, it is pro number one. Pro number two, I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, it's low investment. It's only 20 cents, I think that's equivalent to 19p after VAT here in the UK, to list an item. And you don't pay any extra fees unless you sell something. Once you sell something, then those fees can start to add up a little bit, especially if you are opted into the offsite ads. So if you're going to create an Etsy shop, just keep an eye on that. As long as you're making sure that you know your figures and you make sure that you're factoring the cost of everything in your prices and then making sure that you actually make some money on top of that, you should be okay. Pro number three, if you are just getting started out, Etsy is particularly good for finding buyers because it's a trusted website. If people don't know you at the start, they at least know the Etsy name. And that means that they are more likely to buy from you. Because as a buyer, they feel protected. And sometimes, let's be honest, it can be quite difficult to make sales very, very early on when you've got no feedback score. It's your first sale and people are thinking, oh, is this a trustworthy person? At least on the Etsy platform, they know that if the worst happens, you know, they're covered. And that means you're more likely to be able to build up those first sales. But I do recommend starting to build something of a community around your business from day one. Also, the other thing that you should do is start your website up as soon as you possibly can. That's probably my personal biggest regret, that I didn't start my own website up sooner. But again, I will talk about websites in a minute. Now we move on to the cons. Yes, already. This year's pros list is a little bit leaner. The cons list is not. There used to be a time when you could get that ball rolling, i.e. make a sale, and it seemed to carry your shop a little further than it does these days, as in a little bit longer, which means the plate spinning is more of a thing now than it used to be. I do think that there is more opportunity to make sales now than there used to be, so, you know, swings and roundabouts. But con number one for me is that you have to keep the algorithms fed fairly constantly in order to keep the organic traffic coming in. And when I say keeping the algorithms fed, I mean with things like sales. I mean, that's king. If you are making consistent sales, Etsy will love you. For a limited time, you have to keep it going. Okay, I nearly didn't include this con, but it is a con from a handmade seller's point of view. Not from Etsy's point of view. It actually makes perfect sense from Etsy's point of view. But this is from a seller's point of view, so sorry Etsy. They are leaning hard and fast into not the permanent removal of shop identity, but they're leaning into it. And I have mentioned this in previous pros and cons videos in the past. Etsy being a market platform, you have a ridiculous amount of sellers. And usually under each listing, it would say by Beechtree Handmade, for example. And it used to say that also underneath ads. It no longer does. It says ad by Etsy seller. And I noticed the other day when I went onto the Etsy platform on my computer that I could not see one individual shop name on the homepage whatsoever. You still can. Once you get into the search pages, they're there. Unless it's an ad, then you can't see them. But yeah, on the homepage, which is the front page, as soon as you go onto their website, there was nothing. From a seller's point of view, it just makes it that little bit more challenging to try and build your business and get it established and get people to remember you. And Etsy is perfectly justified in doing this, by the by. This is really good, solid decision on their part. But it does, as I say, it makes things more challenging for us sellers. So just be aware of that. Okay, con number, I'm going to say 4, but I'm already losing count. I've mentioned this previously, but the fees, once you do start selling, they do start adding up. So it is really, really, really important, as I mentioned, to get your numbers nailed down. When it comes to pricing, if you don't know how much one of your items will have in terms of fees, there are fee calculators out there that you can use to work that out. Factor those fees in. That's what I'm saying. Con number whatever is the star seller badge. Oh my days. It doesn't matter. And I can't say that without hearing the rock in my head. It doesn't matter. I'm digressing. What I'm trying to tell you is that the star seller badge at the time of filming does not matter. So don't stress about it, okay? Because people stress. I've not had it, then I had it, then I didn't have it again, then I got it again. I currently don't have it again, and I have noticed no change in sales. It doesn't matter. It is a vanity metric. And on the topic of vanity metrics, Etsy do like to have a few there to act as a bit of an incentive, and makes me a little bit resentful. And the last one, which anybody who follows me here knows it was going to make it in. Anybody who sells in the handmade category that is not handmade. Now, I should point out here that Etsy has their own definition of handmade, and that is a maker who makes their own items by hand or with their own tools. And then you've got designers who design their own items, but they might need a third-party manufacturer to make the item. This is where things like print on demand come in. Still considered handmade in the handmade category. That's the official line. Etsy doesn't seem to be doing an awful lot to enforce it, and so therefore we have a lot of people selling things that are very obviously not handmade in the handmade category, and that's a problem because when you are a handmade seller and you have to go toe-to-toe with these other mass-produced sellers, then it means that they can usually undercut you, and it's a pain in the neck. And that's all I shall say about that. Okay, this is the part of the video that I love. This is where I answer the question, is Etsy worth it in 2023? Because that's the year we're in. Well, you're going to hate me because ultimately it's up to you. Me here in this rectangle that you are watching, or anyone else on YouTube or in a podcast or what have you, no one can tell you whether or not Etsy is right or wrong for you. Sometimes you won't be able to tell. The best way you can find out is to try it. And I mean, hey, I'm still on there, even though I can appreciate that there are challenges to it at the moment. It's not the worst place to be. And if I was just getting started, you bet your boots I would be giving Etsy a go. Just be aware of the reality that is selling on Etsy these days. It's going to be work, and you're going to have to chip away at it consistently. And the people that I do see doing very well on Etsy are the people that do that and who can stick at it, because especially over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of people create businesses on Etsy, and once they realize the reality of the work that goes in, they start to drop off. Ultimately, I would recommend that you view Etsy as a tool that you can use to build your business. But please, 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 please do not use it as your business, your sole business, like that's it. Don't do that. That always ends in tears. In fact, if you're just getting started, then there are 3 other things that I would recommend that you start from the get-go alongside your Etsy shop: a mailing list, a website, and a community. None of these things are quick and easy hacks by any stretch of the imagination. They all take time, which is why the sooner you start them, the better. And I promise you they are the best ways to grow and future-proof your business, which is, if you are looking to create a business, do yourself a favour and start from day one. I talk about these 3 things in this video here, so if you would like to know what to do next, head on over and I'll see you there.